Naitwa Caroline Chagaya. Nimezaliwa kaunti ya Vihiga. I'm the firstborn to my father, but the secondborn to my mom. I was born and raised in Vihiga County, and in my childhood, life was not as easy as it may look, and I wished so much I could have a normal life like the other kids, a complete family, but in my case that wasn't. My mom got separated with my dad when I was barely 5 years old, and she led mom to get married somewhere else. And at that particular time I had to go with my mom because I was a girl child. After mom got married, things were okay until she gave birth to the firstborn in her new marriage. Things had to change. All the love that I thought I had, it had to shift. And I became practically the nanny of the newborn kid. I could do all work at home. I could go to an extent of even catering for the needs of the family. We could go look for grass, sell. The little money I get, I buy flour, I come with it home. And if I don't, then I'll have to get a beating of my life. So it was so hard for me because you have to juggle between being a kid. Here you are acting as a nanny, and you also have to go to school. And since I didn't have anything to do about it, I just have to live life the way it came. And it came to a point whereby whenever we could have funerals somewhere in the village, my mom and my stepdad could give me bank and alcohol and cigarettes. I go and sell during the night for me to earn money so that we could cater for our needs. Failure to do so, then automatically I would have done something that is not supposed to be done, and my stepdad could beat me until all the clothes are tattered. I think that made him comfortable, just making sure I'm injured, like I'm in so much pain. You can't move, you can't do anything because of the injuries from the beating. When I was the age of 13, my step-grandfather, who was now the father-in-law to my mom, started making sexual advances at me. And I went and told my mom, "Mommy, this is what grandfather is doing to me." The reaction I got from my mom, it's not something a child requires from a parent. My mom was so harsh, and she told me, "Get out of here and don't ever talk such nonsense about grown-up people. Just go clean up yourself and never let another ear hear of this story." So from there, it continued. Grandfather continued doing whatever he could do. I couldn't tell mom because even if I say so, my stepdad will beat me up. And since I was just so tired of the beating, I decided to go silent. It happened so for at least 3 years until I couldn't bear it anymore. I decided to run away and look for my dad. Because whenever I could ask my mom, "Where's my dad?" she could tell me, "Don't ever mention such of a person in this place." So the beauty of it, I knew my dad's name, so I just went, started looking for him. Fortunately enough, I found someone who knew where my dad was, and they took me to my dad, where I met my grandmother for the first time. Dad was not around. She welcomed me and it was on a Friday evening, and on a Monday morning my mom went to the chief and reported that dad had kidnapped me. So they had to assemble to the chief. We went and I was asked, am I going with my mom or remaining with my dad? So to me I said I'm remaining with my dad because I didn't want to go back to all the pain that I was undergoing. Then the stepdad told the chief, if that's the case, then he will have to be compensated. Like, he took me in when I was a few months old, and now, because I don't want to stay with him anymore, he has to be compensated. And I told the man, one thing you need to know, when my mom got married to you, I was 5 years old. I could clearly remember the first day we came. So there's no way I could be a few months old. Then the man requested for a cow and some few cash. And the chief agreed, my dad agreed. So the following weekend, they took one cow and the cash they had agreed upon. They gave the elders and they took to my mom and their husband. And now I became staying at my home officially. Now I could not stay with my dad because my dad was not married. So I started staying with my grandmother, though my dad could visit every day because he was not far away. So I went back to school. I was in class 7 by then. I completed my KCP. I passed well. I was called to my girls and I was happy because it was my dream school. But unfortunately, I didn't have the school fees, so I just had to enroll myself to a local school because nobody was willing to take me to school. So I had to force my dad to take me, which he did. I continued with school until when I was in Form 2. Then something happened that changed my life drastically, which I had never thought. We had funeral at home. Then a KDF soldier came and he was like, who's going to take a soda? And for that time, whenever somebody is offering a soda, you regarded that person as a very important person in the society. So it was a police officer and you are like, these are those people who are there to protect us. So we were seated with my fellow students. Then he came. He offered to give us some sodas. We accepted. And they came, the sodas were opened. Everybody took whatever they had requested for and we drank. From there, the following day, I didn't know what happened until the following day in the morning at 9 a.m. when I found myself lying in bed in my brother's house. And I was like, how did I get myself here? So when I woke up, just trying to get out of that bed, I found myself, I was in blood, and I was like, how did I stain my clothes? I had seen my period barely 2 weeks. Now how comes? So waking up, I was like, the sheets are soiled with blood. How could I menstruate and I'm not aware of? But the funny thing is that I was in so much pain, abdominal pain. My private parts were aching, but I couldn't understand. So the only thing I did was just to go wash myself in the river because, you know, at that time, when anyone could see your clothes stained with blood, they could just make fun of you, laugh at you. So I didn't want anyone to see me. I just went to the river, cleaned myself, washed the sheets, and went back home because the funeral was going on, so I didn't have anyone to look for me. So I just kept on, like, my body was weak and I couldn't understand. So the following day I went to school and I was still weak, so I just went and asked my teacher and told her, you know, yesterday I saw blood when I woke up, but I haven't seen it today, and it's barely 2 weeks since I saw my periods, and it was the first period I saw. And the teacher told me, maybe you have hormonal imbalance, so we'll just have to wait and see. As time goes by, your hormones will either balance or not, because girls differ. So I just relaxed and life continued. But this man, when I woke up, on the table there was a matchbox written on a mobile number. So I took that number and I gave to my brother, whom I had found myself in his house, and told him I found this contact, and said, okay, I'll just check who it is. Then after a few months, like that was like 2 months, I had my aunt telling my grandmother, hey, Caro is pregnant. So I was like, how can I be pregnant yet? I have not known any man. So I went for 2 weeks without talking to them, because to me it was like an insult. You know, when you are that church girl, like you do all the activities just revolve around the church and the ministry, and here now they claim you're pregnant, and you're like, how did it even happen? So after that 2 weeks without talking, they told me, Caro, you have to go to the hospital and let's confirm. Unfortunately for me, it was confirmed that I'm pregnant, and it came as a shock to me. And this brother, he was the closest person to me. So I went to him and told him, I'm pregnant. He was like, so it means you had a good time. And I was like, what do you mean a good time? And he told me, Caro, you want to tell me you didn't have a good time? I asked him, how? What do you mean? And he said, how do you think you found yourself in my bed? Like, the guy who is the police officer, paid me so that he could have some good time with you. And that's why I allowed him to use my house and my bed. And to me, I felt betrayed, and I cried. I told him, whatever you have done to me, you will never know peace. Like, how could you do such a thing to me when I trusted you the most, when I could share with you everything? How could you do this? And he told me, you know what, nobody can let money pass, especially in these times, like when we need money. So when you get an opportunity, you take it. So I felt sad, I cried, and my dad could ask me, who is responsible for the pregnancy? And they're like, where will you begin? Whom will you say is responsible for the pregnancy? And that's when my dad said, Caro, you are no longer my child. The church told me, Caro, you have disappointed us. So automatically I became on my own. So out of that shame, I decided the best thing I can do is just to get rid of the pregnancy and just let everybody forget that I was ever pregnant. So I took some tea leaves. Somebody told me tea leaves can abort the kid. I drank the tea leaves, 1 kg. I vomited like, oh my God, like crazy. And I was like, okay, the pregnancy has been terminated. Because for me, I was so naive, like I knew the only place the baby could come out was through my mouth, because I could not see any big opening in my body where a child could come through. So when I vomited, I just knew the baby has already come out. So life continued, but after around 6 months, my tummy was still protruding. So I went back to the hospital. I got checked, and the doctor said the baby is okay and is healthy. And I was like, what? So it didn't happen. Then what did I vomit in the first place? And from there now, I just came back to myself. And the only thing I could do is just to ask God for forgiveness and tell God, forgive me because I've messed up. I didn't know what I was doing. And the only thing I'm asking is just for you to disconnect this child from any evil mind, any plan. Like, you know, they say the connection between a mother and child is too strong. So I didn't want the child to be attached to any evil doings, or I just wanted that child to be a normal child, like a God-fearing child, and to have a good life. So I went to God and asked for forgiveness, which I believe He forgave me, and I started putting my life in order. After 9 months, I gave birth, and I didn't have money to go to the hospital. I didn't have a lasso, I didn't have a napkin. Actually, I had nothing. It was only me and my God. I gave birth to my child. She fell on the floor, and we stayed there for at least 30 minutes without having any help, until I got help. And to me, I just say it was God, because having to give birth, being alone, the first pregnancy, and nobody's there to help you out, it's not easy. But God was just on my side. So since I didn't have any clothes, I could just take my skirt or my blouse, wrap in the baby, and we sleep. That went on for at least 3 months. Then I got a contract on the road, and the first cash I got is when I did my first shopping for my kid. After 6 months of giving birth, my aunt told me, "Carol, there is an offer in Nairobi. You can go and work." And I told her, how can I go, and yet my child is barely 6 months? She told me, don't worry, they have allowed you can go with the child. So I was so happy, and I knew, I'll go with my child. We won't be separated. So the money was sent, bus fare. We came to Nairobi for the first time in 2010. That was in June. And I met someone who supposedly was to be my employer, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. That's when I realized I had been sold off for marriage. So when I came, this man met me. The first day we slept well, but the second day he told me, "Now, do you know why you are here?" And I said, "No. The only thing I know is that I came to work." And they said, "Okay, yes, you came to work, but do you know the type of work you're doing?" And I said, "No." Said, "From today you're going to be my wife." So I was like, how can I be a wife? We have never met. This is the first time we are meeting, and you want me to be your wife? How is it even practical? So he told me, "You just know, you're now my wife." So things continue that way, giving yourself to someone you don't have a connection with. It's kind of hard. So anytime you could make sexual advances, like he needs sex, I'm not into it, we could fight. Until it came to a point I was so much hurt, and just told him, this thing that is making you to hit me all the time is better I just chop it off, because I cannot take the beating anymore. But he overpowered me and he threw me out. I went to the police station. The police told me, "You know what? These are just normal cases that we have been used to. So just wait for your man, let him come for you." So I spent the night at the police station with the child. The following day, the man came, picked us up, and we went back home. So we stayed the first year, the second year. The third year, somebody told me, if you want this man to be serious with you and to focus on you and to build a happy family, you have to give him a child. So I got pregnant. I decided to give myself to him. I got pregnant and I gave birth. Little did I know that doing so, it wouldn't change anything. Actually, it even made things worse, because this man could just come whenever he feels like, do things the way he feels like doing. Like, he doesn't even care. And whenever I could ask what's really happening, ile kitu napatana nao ni slap. So I even got used to the beating. I was not allowed to get out of the house or to go even to church. So you just have to be indoors. Whenever you try to at least do some business, it's like you are going to look for other men out there because you don't want to submit yourself to him. So it was just to be there, stay indoors, and don't even go out. So a time came, like the kids were supposed to enroll in school. He was not even ready and willing to take them to school. So as a mother, you have to make that effort and do something. And the kids could even stay at home like for 1 month or even 2 months. They have not gone to school because of school fees. And there's nothing you can do because you're not allowed to work. You're not allowed to do anything. And for him, it's just there, engaged with so many things that you cannot even understand. So life became too difficult until one day things just got out of hand. He came home after like a week and we had nothing to eat, and I requested for some money and he said, I don't have money. So it was like, I kept on nagging, how are we going to feed the kids if you don't have money? You said you had gone to work, which means you ought to have been paid. And he continued to insist I don't have money. So when it came around 11 p.m., he gave me 50 shillings and told me, go and buy. And I was like, it's already too late. How am I supposed to go out at this hour? And he said, you are asking for money, here it is. So I became angry and I was like, I'm not going alone. If you wish, you can go. Because the time I requested for it, you never gave. So he stood up, very angry. He slapped me. And for me, I slapped back because I was so much pissed off. So when I slapped him back, he slapped me back again. So we started fighting. And he reached out for inaitwa chuma. Then akanigonga nayo. It was like he could meet me saying, leo nitakuwa, leo nitakuwa. So I became so much afraid, knowing that, hii nimeambiwa leo nitakuwa, then it's serious. So venye alinigonga na hiyo chuma, I passed out. So I couldn't be on my senses. After some time, I woke up. I was in blood. And the only thing I could think of is just getting out of that house. So I took a lakikoi, covered myself up with the blood. And I went to my pastor's house because that was the only place I could think of. When I went there, I opened the door. It was around midnight. When they opened the door, the only thing I could do is just to fall down and just cry. I cried for over 20 minutes, just crying without saying anything. Then after that, they took me to the hospital. And the doctor said, we cannot treat her until the police come. And the pastor said, we cannot involve the police because she fell in the bathroom. The doctor asked, how can such a deep wound someone get from falling in the bathroom? And they insisted, don't complicate issues, just treat her. So the doctors just treated me. They made some stitches on my head. And that night, I went back to and spent in my pastor's house till morning. The following day, I had to go back to that house. I stayed there. The man disappeared for a week because he thought maybe I've reported him to the police. But for me, I was so much afraid to go back to the police because the last time I went, I didn't get any assistance. They told me like, these are just normal cases. They've already gotten used to it. So you should just go back, reconcile with your man, and continue living. So I just stayed in that house, just wounding the wounds, and the kids were there just watching, and there's nothing I could do. And now they can't go to school. The older girl has to take care of me. And after 2 weeks, the man came back. He asked for forgiveness. But for me, my heart was so heavy that I couldn't forgive. Like, I was afraid. And he went to the church, asked the pastor and the elders to come and talk on his behalf. But I refused to listen, and I told them I cannot. So the pastor told me, if you have refused to forgive this man, then you are not even supposed to be in church. So from today onwards, don't come back to this church. Don't ever talk to any member of my church, and don't even call any of them. So I stayed out of church for at least 1 year, until a time came I could just go back to the church very early in the morning, do some cleaning. And one day pastor found me when I was just about to leave, and he was like, did I not warn you not to come to this church? What are you doing here? So I went back and I cried and asked God, why me? Because when you have that heart of service, there's no way you can control yourself. You just keep on doing, no matter how much you are hurting. You just feel once you do it, you are fulfilled. So after that, things became so tough. I decided to walk out of that place where I was staying. I looked for another house somewhere else, and I started staying with my kids. Things were so tough, like the kids could go hungry, you're looking for a job you cannot get. And I became so bitter with my life. Like, I hated everyone around me, everything around me. In the midst of the pain and the darkest moments, I came and met someone who was ready to listen to my story, who was ready to just hold my hand and just tell me everything is okay. So I got an invitation to attend a GBV seminar, Gender-Based Violence. And when I went there, I listened to people's stories, and I was like, okay, so I'm not alone. And I was asked to introduce myself and just give a brief story of myself. And the first time just talking about it, the only thing I could do is just cry, because this is now someone who is ready to listen to your story without judging you, without thinking that you are the one at fault. So I cried, and I got the courage at least to speak a few words. And this lady, she's called Diana Kamande, the founder and CEO of Come Together Widows and Orphans Organization. She told me, Carol, it is well, and we are going to work this journey together. So she organized some counseling services for me at Nairobi Women's Hospital in Adams. And I went for 2 years just undergoing the treatment, because the pain was so deep and severe to an extent I couldn't accept what I had gone through, because just hating everyone, hating everything around you, it's not easy. But when you decide to accept that there's nothing you can change about that, it was just part of the journey in your life, then you become at peace with yourself, and you realize there's more you can do. Despite your story, there's more you can do just to change someone else's life. So I got healed. I took life in a positive way, and I realized that we all go through different stages in life, different phases in life, but what matters is how we handle the issues. Because for me, even though I was hurt, but at least I got the strength to get out of that situation. There are so many people who go through the same issues, but they never make it out strong. But for me, I know God had a purpose, and I can confidently say that despite all the pains, I got healed. And right now, we help others who have gone through the same issues, at least to heal and find the meaning of life. For all the mothers who are out there, I would like to urge you, whenever your kids come to you, always listen to them. You are their protector, and the only person who can give them a listening ear, it's you. Be a friend with your child. Don't make them fear you, because don't fear like, where do I start from? Like for me, I was like, how do I even begin? I have nothing. But once you get out of that situation, you will always find a way, and God always creates a way. Don't ever be afraid to raise your voice, because through that voice you may save a lot of lives that may be ruined if you decide to go silent. So just get out of that comfort zone and do what you think will give you peace of mind. Never be silent and allow evil to ruin the lives of our kids.